emoyeni bakithi kuyatshisa emoyeni yethu kwemkanwami solose emoyeni bakithi kuyatshisa singethi emoyeni kwakubuhlungu emoyeni bakithi kuyatshisa emoyeni yethu kwemkanwami solose emoyeni bakithi kuyatshisa singethi emoyeni kwakubuhlungu emoyeni bakithi kuyatshisa emoyeni.
It's a good morning. Welcome to our Sake Online. My name is Zenzele Ndebele, and it's a Thursday, the day where we bring you the stories on the ZPRA Liberation Archives. Thank you for your comments, your suggestions. I know we get a lot of feedback, and sometimes we are not able to, follow up on everyone who sends their messages and their comments. But we are grateful that people are watching the program and they are suggesting. I have a long list of people that I need to follow up and interview. So if you have suggested a name and you are yet to see the interview, please be patient. It's coming your way. Of course, I want to remind you that the end of November, we will launch a ZPRA magazine called Yithi Lava. The magazine will focus on the stories of ZPRA liberation fighters and things that happened then and reflections from scholars. So we'll be sharing the details on how you can subscribe to the magazine, and definitely it will by subscription only. We'll send it to your email and you can enjoy it in the comfort of your home. But also, if you have pictures of Obuti or Kulu or Baba, Ababeku ZPRA, and in their ZPRA fatigue, and you think that it would be worthwhile to share them, please feel free to get in touch with us, and we want to share those pictures. We would want to see them. It's 44 years after independence. I know abanengi la hlama picture ngesikhathi ground, but lawo lilawo luwavumbulile. Please share with us. You can get in touch with me on 0773 103 262. We are to measure my picture go WhatsApp. You can also get in touch. You email us. We want to get those stories. In the last 2 weeks or so, we have been interviewing retired Colonel Ernest Dube. He has been a good storyteller, and he has been telling very interesting stories. But I just wanted to start by giving a bit of a background to some of the stuff that he has been talking about. The most of the guys that we have talked, I'm not sure why. It seems like we are talking to a lot of guys who trained in Angola, and we've had guys saying that Nikita Mangena used to favor the Angolan trained guys, but also that's the reason why some people wanted to attack him. But it was also probably the Angolan trained guys who were also, against him, and the others who have said that Nikita did not like the guys who were trained in Angola. So there are so many stories about the Angolan trained guys, but they seemed to enjoy fighting. And there is one interesting fact that ZPRA had a lot of their forces, a lot of their firepower, if I may use the word, in the Urungwe area, Mashonaland West. And it was mainly because the strategy or the war strategy for ZPRA was to fight from that side until they get to Harare. Before they talked about ceasefire and all those kind of things, the strategy for ZPRA was to fight all the way until they take the capital, Salisbury, by then. So they concentrated most of their guys that side. And remember, at that particular time, when you're talking about 78 and beginning of 79, they had already started training what they called the regular army, and the regular army was preparing to come in with tanks and heavy machinery to actually fight their way up. You hear about the stories about the 0 hour strategy, which became a problem after independence, because many guys in government, or let me say ZANU-PF, thought that the 0 hour was about attacking the new government and removing them from power. There were a number of battles that were fought in the Urungwe area, and remember, it was in Urungwe that the Viscount was shot down by these guys who some of them called them the Strela Gang, or the guys who were using the Strela anti-air missile. And the story of the Strela Gang is yet to be told. Who were these guys? I think Dube has touched on the Strela Gang, but how did they operate? The guys who were sabotaging electricity lines were also coming from Murungwe and bombing the electricity lines. And if you follow the ZPRA story on the bombing of the fuel tanks in Harare, it was the same crew or the same guys who were coming via Urungwe. And if you look at the operations that ZPRA was doing, it will make sense that there is a chance that the ZPRA guys were involved in the bombing of the fuel tanks, because it goes along with what they were doing, sabotaging the economy. But we know that story is quite controversial. But ZPRA had its own internal challenges, which I think we are going to talk about in detail in the days to come, in the weeks to come. There was the issue of corruption. Some people felt like OSHEF were taking their kids and relatives and sending them abroad at the expense of the locals. There was also the infighting between those who were seen as educated and the ones who were not educated, and the ones who were trained in regular army versus the guerrillas who felt like you have to 2 or 3 ubaleke. Yet the regular army felt like, you fight, you hold ground. And these kind of confrontations, I think they were a big issue. Even after independence, you find that in the assembly points, there were a lot of fights between the regular army and the non-regular army. And even the deployment, some of the guys who were in the regular army will go, bejoina ama-guerrilla lefike bathathela impopo, bebathathela ama-position, ukuthi wejoina thina, and all those kind of things. Whereas with the death of Nikita Mangena, JZ Moyo, the guys who seemed to be very firm in the way that they were handling the military affairs, I think that affected ZPRA in a big way. And probably their success also became their failure, because after the death of Mangena, what happens? There's the weakness in the way the military fights. There's the weakness in the way they deal with the military intelligence. And a lot of things happen. So while we talk about the successes of ZPRA, how they were organized, disciplined, but sometimes we need to look at the internal issues. What were the issues that led to ZPRA's failure? Probably to ZAPU, to take power, to be in charge. How did they get decimated by ZANU after independence when they were disarmed in 1982? Then Gukura on the follows. And in this program, retired Colonel Ernest talks about those issues, the fights between the regular and the non-regular. And of course, it will be interesting to talk to Babaton about some of those things, and we hear his response on those issues. For now, enjoy the program.
The place Esale ambush, it was a short distance from Umfundisi we-Methodist. Umfundisi we-Methodist, who was our good friend.
Was he Methodist or Catholic?
Methodist. Fumoreba neka mzorewa, what church was that? Methodist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Umfundisi Shambara. We didn't know what as a Methodist, he was now sympathizing Lomzorewa. So, Sale ambush, kona panema trucks abuya sawa harasa ma trucks, the bazooka fired. 2 days later, we then got wind. Ukuti kona. Before that, when we withdrew, we had a certain ugogo. We used to love that ugogo. Ugogo loana wezama ngazo zonke indlela siya ku withdrawal route yethu emfuleni. Siswela tuyabe kwazi njani, can imagine. Bana bangu, chabe chimurenga, ndangonzo kuti gidi. Lani ukuthi liyaharaswa kumbe litini, isi yena befuna ukuthi axoxe nathi. But because Tiabes withdraw from firefighting, we are in the height, fearing for her danger when I won. A helicopter lena, but she was out there to praise that. So we just pass Kokolwana so we lived that life only to learn it imizi yonke lana. Abantu have been mobbed up by the Rhodesian auxiliary force known as Pumorevan. And guess what? Our good friend, Umfundisi Shambara, had disappeared. He had turned loyalty, he was now against us. So we started hunting abantu abanjalo, quite a number of people ran away. We started experiencing some challenges of mistrust within the locals. However, the ZAPU policy were never to victimize people on religion, but we knew good secular fault lines within our loyalty base. So here we go. We then planned another operation towards Ifam Kajimbak. This other group from Karuru group, a new group, another second group Angola has arrived as well. The regular, another company regular Amila Singenil. So there's back, so they were now manning permanent ambush. Can you come and reinforce? I still remember the settlement imizi yakhona kwathiwa sasithi kwakanyakasikana kwambuya nyakasikana sahamba sayolala khona le ambush. As usual mina ngangi-operator either RPG or PKM. I had this colored guy from Dolwane sasithi ngu-Alec we operator RPG-7 that day. I remember there was this ravine to the right, Tina facing there. Yangeni enemy convoy. Ooh, combination of two large groups. You can imagine the firefight. It was hell. After that, Tina, the withdrawal route, we were going to go back Sibuyela area here to Emwami area. Kapiri mountain area, lay group, Yekaruru, Iabuyela foot as if they are going back to Kachuta area, this general area, Ngapekine. So only to learn, Ambusi Pelile, Alec has lost Ama fingers up, a left, yeah. Yes, Ama finger, this whole tassel is gone. What Alec did in the middle of loading the bazooka, he forgot. He triggered while he's still holding the bazooka. The fire then swept all the tassel matambo. So Alec had been taken out back to Zambia. But we remained in Tinasuku operation. The battle theater had changed because there were so many forces. There could be groups of Mtunzi, the other novices, another group in Angola. Labuba lay ambushi, akusa coordinator. We are too many in a small theater. Only to learn the Mtunzi group, second Angola group had just arrived. They are almost like their battalion. They made an ambush towards the end. They chai ambush, they suka lapa be kwelintaba. Vafana labana bane befika bevula, opened their, started cleaning their rifles. Enemy in the counter, and then it captured to about, I think, about 10 to 16 rifles. What a disappointment, a disaster. The coordination was not to the right kind of expectation. So here we are. Besides that, let me reminisce, let me talk about contextual areas. ZPRA strategy, ZAPU politics. Fine, we had encountered the struggle within ZAPU through Alfred Nikita. We had got wind ukuthi kule kwaba le shooting incident, our group in Angola eyasala freedom camp kwaba le shooting incident. we had heard there was an attempt on Alfred Nikita's life. But I had seen Nikita then came to Nkume base. And that time, it was bad news. Shangane gave an order. Come on, from Sisegangene, jump everybody. Ngiwhistleyana. Yazi emyema phandle lapha tibiye ku parade. The way how commander was enraged, yazi you could tell there was something wrong. So from then Nikita addresses us. He uses the word, you renegades. Some of you tried to kill me, but left my index finger. Nikita by then, AK yakhe folded bat with a yellow magazine. He folded bat le uyivulile, iku auto. He says, if you want to kill me, go ahead and take a position, a prone position. But before you release your first shot, I would have opened a burst of fire on you, renegade. I recall Umashimini, Comrade Mashimini, the Deputy Chief of Operation, where Lalamela esemuva kwa Nikita by esitshengisa sign le. So it was a full charge thing. Some guerrillas abanye had whispered to us, "Would you want to be careful, Rodwell, Commander Rodwell, uyathengisa usebenza lo mangena," this kind of thing. Tina Angolan group, we then got confused because Nikita was our commander. We loved him. So, unfortunately, I was not in that battle, Nkume, the attack on Nkume. What happened, as we were coming from Kazangarala, we found the Navy guy. We called them the Navy guys. Those were manning armor dinges. They had evacuated the place. So we could not locate the dinges. Lucky we had two Tonga guys, carriers Lord John. Those guys had to swim the Great Zambezi River. Following Debabuya Lama Dinji. See, in the morning, they think we are then seeing he attacked Nkume Base. Shit. There is attack. You can imagine that attack was earmarked. Albana safika saspongo fikela ko ambush attack. So Nkume Base is attacked, is destroyed. Sibona ama anti-air guns are ferried by my helicopters, Esia Konale, all the like. Here we are, a situation had turned Enyendlela we did not expect. Suspicion and mistrust amongst ourselves. Kusokula Marcel Scout amanye, all that thing. So, but we continued doubting whether information would be tengiswa nekita tengisa. No. Ngasifika a base. One of my commander wehambile kuna ku base. One of my another group yethu yayi iphakathi because sasa singama sections amaningi, sometimes going back to Zambia lali ngahambe as a group. Abanye bahamba kudala leyo mthola lokhu bephakathi. These guys then told us what happened, spoke highly of Rodwell. It appears when they expected the enemy siege, Rodwell had deployed abantu, guerrillas. And this guy tells us, what is the enemy? By then, the enemy, ama types of enemies, sasikwazi the 31 ama-aborigines lana balama-ring emakhalweni kuthiwa chai aborigine lana babebuya along i-tree line as if bacross i-road. So he tells us ukuthi is the Rodwell who opened the fire, burst of fire. And this kind of altercation in Beg. Kuyahelwa phela ama-inside, do you know that? Kuyathethiswana. You see, Tina, we are regular trained. You could also retain the word ngefire inhlamba ngenhlamba. So the trust with Rodwell had been built. So zabona ukuthi ngizahamba lapho engihamba khona sembala ngoRodwell kakhulu. I then recognize Rodwell as a very strong man, a critical man within the fighting force. Yes, ZPRA. The coming in of irregular. Their approach to warfare. I mean, let's talk about their induction into the battle theaters. It was not proper, it was haphazard. The guerrillas who have been in the battle theater for years have not been well briefed
about the coming in of the regular.
And they were going to coordinate with them.
Yeah.
You see, the guerrillas who deployed earlier, they had this fear of provoking the situation. But these guys are moving open. They just move in open, you see. So an issue that then provokes some guerrilla learners' anger. As if those guys have a security consciousness. They'll spoil the whole theater for the rest of the guerrillas. But that was their nature of training. They'll just stay in large groups in their platoons, their company. They don't even split into smaller groups. No, they stay with their commander and the thing. They have an officer saluting in the field. And we also got wind by the policing system. They enforce discipline in theater. They cannot get arrested. You see, konapana feel the punishment. The commander, a guerrilla, you wouldn't do that. So these are other things of discord in the operational theaters. Hence, the fighting philosophy by then, 78, had evolved to be of semi-conventional. Why they were, I think what headquarters, MHQ, ZPRA had done is to reinforce the guerrillas with guys who can hold ground to facilitate the conventional force to cross the border at each hour under the operation known as Storming Heavens. We are now towards 1979. In the guerrilla detachment that were formed, I had also been elevated to detachment logistic chief. You see, we used those terms, chief of operation, chief of intelligence, chief. So I was the chief of logistics, detachment chief of logistics. The Viscount had been downed. I remember the regional commissar, Jonas Wilson Dube, had since been withdrawn and deployed in Kachuta Spolilo area, where another large group had deployed. So this is ZPRA. So when there was an attempt to go and hit Amafuta Ekaroy, fuel point Ekaroy, I wasn't in the group that went there, but some of my guys, they went there. Unfortunately, the guide obathathayo wa-approacha ngeroute eyayingayenziwe bebengarekhanga. When these guys were towards Amafuta, Ekaro, then behind at their back, then the enemy then fired some alarm shots. Pa, 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 ebusu. That caused a flop of that operation. Amadodabe said withdraw. Again, because of the artisanal level, around the area yetu, we had been instructed to open a new sector, Zwimba, Chirao. This is the week sesihamba eChirao, si commander Ngunyere, si commander labo Godi mu Arabu Matintana. Mina then I'm withdrawn to go for further training, a commissariat course. Then what I gathered, the colleagues went well. Ekaroi, they reconnaitred the areas zonke leziana, Chirao, Zwimba. On their way back, I don't know what happened. Enemy was traced following their spoor, and almost, I am told, half of them got killed to counterattack. But I'm told Oma Tintana today is still alive. One colleague of mine says Wambone says South Africa. These are the same guys who, in the post-independent Zimbabwe, would encounter a situation here, desertion within the ZNA. Many of them ran away for their safety in the neighboring countries. And I'm told 4 or 5 of them are either in South Africa or Botswana. Abanye sabasapenduki.
There's a character that is told, so as a figure in my area, and I was in, but people were talking about a guy called Quattro. Did you ever meet the character?
I did not meet Quattro. Isekta yetu thina sasimotu Angwa Karoi area usia Angwa Karoi usia Mangura. So crossing yetu isayinga so bright light crossing point. I bright light crossing yayivelela kuta zabo Vuti West Machukachuta. Is when I got wind Quattro babe group yabo ayavelela ku area commander kuthiwa Mahopolo, comrade Mahopolo. These are the guys I'm told babe filter towards Karo istolo lesiyana sasi popular sasile those sympathizers bezap, whom I then later learned we were facilitator theta a group that went for Harare operations. Mina kwetu area we are not. But let me, as I indicated, we have so many groups because back theater, ukuthi umuntu laba kwakungela proper reporting ukuthi le group yabo Zenzele fika iyanga.
Yeah.
No, ubabonile, where did they go? Bahambile.
Because we're not asking.
We are not even allowed.
Yeah, to ask.
Bahambile. So we would see those groups as names as zazidlula.
You know, maybe as we've talked a lot of things, but there's something that up to now has not been solved. And a lot of people have talked about. ZPRA claims, Abafuti Harare, Zanda claims it, Abayamandi thinks about Mozambicans. Do you have an idea of what happened?
I later learned, because Sasile directive to hit Amafuta Ekaroi, Mina, I assumed all these years that was a ZPRA operations. I also read Comrade Sibona Babaton, that he knew how that operation was planned. And then I also learned there is a certain boy, only record, you could record the ZPRA passing through farm areas, area Makarirangwe, all those, how ZPRA was filtering into Harare through their places. So to me, Harare was our sector of operation. By the way, you should have heard the people who opened up the Harare sector were none other than Comrade Lolo Waba Sasithi Mutsanu, Chief of Intelligence, one-time Chief of Intelligence. He ended up being Director Military Police. Ulebizo lesishoneni nje. She's married to this lady who was former Commander 1 Brigade. Thereafter, I would also Comrade Chigudu. Comrade Chigudu, at one time during my interview, I learned that he was deployed in Salisbury, to operate in Salisbury, but he was later captured. There were quite a number of guys. Harare has been a sector for ZAPU, for ZPRA deployment. O Comrade Dlakama, bonke labo baziyo, o Dlakama, they were deployed in Harare. The 1964 group. Even Babe captured, but ZAPU maintained its deployment in Salisbury. But well, I later learned with our colleagues, the city, Yibaba conducted operation. Well, I have no proof to that effect. But what I know, the ZPRA were equally deployed because Tinasasle specific group for urban warfare. I remember I would then, during Assembly Point meet group, urban warfare deployed Ebulawa. Here we are. I am now going back to Zambia en route to Russia, Union of Soviet Union, USSR. Then we were moved to Jason Zia Papa Moyo camp. And we were the first to open the camp, which is after the bombardment. This was now a new camp. Bombs were still littered around. That's where we were being trained in commissariat work. We had 2 instructors. Then there were 2 dens, Den Spyro and the other Den. We trained for 3 months. We had already done the administration, passport work, everything, preparing to go to USSR. But on this fateful day, we see the arrival of the ZAPU leadership, led by Samuel Munodawafa, the chairman. He tells us of the human resource demands. Unfortunately, gentlemen, this group, you have already trained commissariat work. You are already politically aware. So we are now deploying you because of the urgent need. Here I'm deployed in Southern France. Southern France, Kezi area, Matopo region. We were taken towards the Kazungula border as a ZPRA group. We had to take a hike towards Livingstone general area. Unknown to me and the rest of my guys, we were not only ZPRA, we were many. So at twilight, we were then moved toward the river. I then recognized one face, very popular, Comrade Chipa Nyampingiza. The place that we were crossing, if you have been to Kazungula, there is a Botswana crossing point there. There are reeds. There is this big swamp that stretches towards Botswana. There's just a corner. We then realized the place we were made to cross at a swamp, and there was this radiation pillbox in just dug, built in that swamp. We were crossing there. Where the likes of Fana Besta Magwisi, what. Then we realized, the other group that was crossing after us was from the MK guys. When we crossed there, we will just get into the open. There is this land minefield. Immediately we swing right, we cross into Botswana. Next to the Bantu, we lie low there. Believe me, unlike what I had experienced in Northern Front Region 3, Kazangarara, this time we are to wait for trucks to load us. And guess what? The trucks that came to pick us up were none other than those from Collihorn, civilian trucks. We were bundled in those civilian trucks, driven towards Francistown. But we could not reach Francistown same day. We had to take a hide somewhere in Botswana National Park. It is at this moment in time that we started sharing, meeting MK guys, befriending MK guys. And we were lying low then. Around 7 o'clock at night, the trucks came. Back into the trucks, moving towards Francistown. And when we debussed towards the village, Kwavaka, mizi yechikalanga, is when we meet Commander Sibona Babaton, who is now the front commander, Southern Front. Like, so a poster from Northern Front after his regular officer cadet training, say deployed. But when we were there is this report, we are missing 2 guys. One MK guy, esa city kona, not Bruce, I can't remember. John. Lo comrade Jack Harris. Ukomsa. Lapane salala kona, those guys, babethanda bokulala bengu-2, bekhuluma too much politics. They discuss the politics until balala bengu-2 sabachiye gangen. So we're made to move on. But I was not part of the command element I received ama orders route because we were close to the border. I realized, Tina, we are now moving, Tina, see company ekam lobisi, a company eka Skipion. This is the regular army company. Their battalion command had long crossed. Sikamba le group zem NK. Siangena silandi mizi iziti vaka ko Chichi. When we were crossing mizi yako Dube ko Chichi, Dube malikongwa there. Seskalisi farm like grid. When we were there, we heard the sound of vehicles. Enemies coming in. Ambush. Slay ambush. Enemy get food. You can imagine. Nobody cares because irregular food. The security, instead of let the vehicle pass in as a continuous figure, but says charm enemy vehicles convoy a border. The lead vehicle, it was an anti-mine detector. A mover for the anti-mine detector. The bazookas were not effective. We could not bring down these vehicles because the enemy would then load armor sacks of sand. Wait, even a chire. Aye. Unfortunately, this MK guy, I believe, were intelligence. I don't know what happened. Imota says then here, what one genem kwakeni at the hip level, AK trying to spray those bullets. Then bahle bamchaya wawele sente emgwaqo. I don't remember burying that guy because I'm a helicopter tabuya konapana as with my experience the back continuous scheme is my life thing. I am not worried. Continue. Siyadlula areas eKhalanyoni. Nyayibona, it's almost to the right. Sisiya khona le Bruna Peck. When we arrived at Bruna Peck Hospital, silala ngapa old line. Following day, old line singena ngempata. We meet this pole bicycle. Enemy is coming. Enemy. This boy, Sasiti Simon Moyo, who then would then later join the Zimbabwean Air Force, whereby pilot, and later left for a Zimbabwe or driver, a Boeing 707. At the same time, he is now headman. God. So he tells us if enemy abuya, where is it? He described, no, ubone so abantu bayaharaswa towards imizi yako Bango. The boy then go, okay, ule baskilo, hamba fana msiza, siyabuya katesi. When Simon, having left for about 10 or 15 minutes, he comes back, sebelapa. Ambush. In that ambush, enemy angena, you see, we are not sure who are these. Are these skuzaps? You see, the instruction was siba cycle, irregular approach. Company command wanted to aba cycle, bangele ku cycle, then we raise just a hold. This MK, my friend, Bruce, was the commissar. Bruce only raises, there's our comrades. You see, so those guys, ngokureza ngokusukuma kuka Bruce, ba panika, ba ama. They were about 4. I think they were about a section. Ababe pambi bekanya babe mu 4. Then Bruce approached these guys as if, I think those guys then realized, what? Opened the rapid fire on Bruce.
Were they comrades?
No. These other guys playing zebra, whether the cell scouts or whatever, Bruce is killed. Engagement, labo babule sibilele labo 2, so the rest they've gone. Burial. MK guys says umbera khona who field. What I then noticed, a culture of burial, MK guys lat yaingafanani. These guys then gave their colleague a full field burial, singing of songs, law song, imbongi, hambam godwanti, what, it's all alapambil, all those things, a nice kind of send-off.